Sometimes telling a good story means trashing your first idea.
And we threw almost the entire film out and just started from scratch.
Did you know that How to Train Your Dragon is actually based on a book? And they are so different from each other that they are almost unrecognizable. But why? Sure, any adaptation will face changes when translated to the screen, but what was it about this book that was so hard to adapt they had to change it completely? I asked Chris Sanders, writer and director of Lilo and Stitch, The Croods, and How to Train Your Dragon.
My experience with How to Train Your Dragon, I was asked to come onto the film late in the process. They had already been working on the movie, they had designed the characters, and they had written and storyboarded and created story reels, and they felt like the film wasn't working. So I was asked to come in and take it over and see if I could give it a go. I knew nothing about it. I read the book by Cressida Cal, and then I watched the story reel, and I immediately saw what I thought was the short circuit, if you will, that was causing the trouble. So I called my friend, Dean DeBlois, who we had partnered before on Mulan and on Lilo and Stitch. And I said, what are you doing? You got some free time? You want to come over and co-direct on this thing? And he said, yes. And so we got together. And here's the problem we saw. In the book, there is a contradiction. The Vikings in that book are at war with dragons, but they also collect dragon eggs as teenagers, and they raise the dragons inside those eggs. And that was confusing to me. Either you are at war with a creature or you have a symbiotic relationship. So that was the problem. We had to choose one or the other. So what happened was we sat down with Jeffrey Katzenberg, and we would meet with Jeffrey almost every day, and we would present something and ask a question and make a decision and move on. And I'll give you an example. Dragons and Vikings are at war with one another, or dragons and Vikings have a symbiotic relationship. Jeffrey came in and we said, all right, these are the two choices we have. We think that the at war one is a lot more compelling. It has more energy. And he said, agreed, that one. And we said, great, they're at war. Next step. So basically what we did, because Jeffrey said you have a chance to get this done once, rather than jump into any sort of details and worry about any character, we basically think of it as a car in a shop. We took that car apart down to the frame. We took the wheels off, the engine, everything. We're going to put it together piece by piece by piece, and we are not going to contradict ourselves. Every time we make a decision, we're going to say yes, we're going to move forward. So dragons and Vikings, they're at war. Next, in the book, Hiccup raises Toothless, and Toothless is this cute little tiny dragon. He's really small. And Toothless and Hiccup become partners in the story. And our whole thing was, all right, either he befriends this dragon or he finds a dragon that is the most dangerous dragon in their world, and he has to keep it secret. Obviously, we all picked that he catches a dragon and he has to keep it secret. A forbidden friendship. And again, the energy source to that.
If you want to write your own adapted story, dealing with fire-breathing beasts is the least of your worries. Download our free PDF guide on how to write an adaptation, with helpful tips that will guide you through the adaptation process and help you craft the best possible adapted script. Download link is down below.
The next problem was Toothless himself. The Toothless in the book is actually a dragon. In the movie, he is what they call a terrible terror.
Meet the terrible terror! It's like the size of my...
There's a scene in the first film where Toothless and Hiccup are sitting on a beach and they're eating fish, and these little tiny dragons land, and they're like little, almost like little seagulls. That's the Toothless from the book. Those little dragons are multiple versions of the actual Toothless as described in the book, and that was the version they tried to make the movie with. And now you can see why they were having trouble. That little dragon is cute. It's not scary at all. It's not intimidating. So the next thing that Dean and I decided was we have to rebuild Toothless and reconceive him. If he's going to find a dragon and befriend it, that dragon has to be the most dangerous dragon of all. So we created the concept of a night fury. I actually named it. I would call it Night Fury. It only attacks rarely. It's the one that they fear the most. And then we designed him to be kind of like the sports car of dragons. The other dragons in the movie had these large, kind of thin, wispy shapes, and they were very drawn out and stuff. And I was very interested in Dean as well, in making him more compact, powerful, like the Corvette of dragons. And then we decided to make him all black because he only flies at night. We had to redesign and rebuild, re-rig, and surface a brand new dragon in record time. Usually they have about a year to get one of these things going. We had only 1 month. The Toothless in the film was created in about 1 month and ready to go. We brought all the artists who were working on the film into a theater, and we did a big presentation where we pitched back to them the version of the movie that we intended to make. And to their credit, nobody freaked out. I think we threw away almost 80% of the film, which was more than they said we were allowed to do. They said, you can only redo like 1/3 of the film. And we threw almost the entire film out and just started from scratch. That was the biggest story problem in How to Train Your Dragon, like pretty much the whole basic concept. So we changed the basic concept. We kept the idea that dragons and Vikings were at war, and we changed Toothless entirely. And once we changed Toothless, everything started to light up. The story started to work. It started to make sense. Suddenly, it was compelling and it had energy. So what I learned, in conclusion, it is okay to treat your story like a mechanical thing. Reducing it to its framework and working on the framework is the best thing you can do. Because if you can get that right, then you can have all the fun in the world. Think of it as like a Christmas tree. If you can get that Christmas tree stable and simple, then you can decorate it. Then you can do stuff with character and ridiculous, silly dialogue. So think about your structure. I know it doesn't sound glamorous, but if you can get that structure right, it's just like having a house. Get the structure right, the house is going to hold it together.
I absolutely love that. Thank you, Chris. Animation has always been inspired by literature. Watch this video to discover how Brenda Chapman and her team adapted the epic tale of Moses for the Prince of Egypt. I'm Pietro, this is WFA Animation, and I'll see you in the next video.